Kia ora, I'm Amanda Gillies, and today on The Detail, New Zealand's big problem.
We are in the midst of an obesity pandemic.
And the quick fix and long-term solutions.
People are raving about a new way to lose weight.
Some now calling it the skinny pen.
It's no wonder these medicines, yes, I'm talking Ozempic and Wegovy, have been called the wonder drugs.
How much weight did you lose? 25 kilos?
The allure is life-changing weight loss.
One word, game changer. This is transformational medicine.
But it's also transforming the fashion industry. Plus-size models are now finding it hard to fit in.
Fashion is going backwards.
The body positivity movement was just a trend.
The rise of Ozempic, bringing skinny back. Where is that coming from?
Plus-size models are not working as much as they used to. Skinny always seems to win.
We've been told for a really long time through all this marketing that the worst thing you can be in life is fat. And I mean, that's so problematic.
So today we're looking at how a quick fix to fat is changing society, and not always for the better, and what else is happening in the science on weight loss. I talked to Auckland University professor Wayne Cutfield, who studies obesity.
The WHO's declared that the world's major health problem was no longer undernutrition, but overnutrition and obesity.
And he may have a cheap Kiwi solution.
It's a designer probiotic. Is it a miracle? Let's see. But it shows lots of promise.
Evelyn Ebrey, who has just produced a doco-series on plus-size models called Cutting the Curve, also explains what happens when you no longer fit into society's expectations.
There's become so much more of a focus on weight and size. Again, with conservative politics coming back into play, that brings a renewed focus on controlling women's bodies.
The Kiwi body is getting bigger. Right now, New Zealand has the third highest adult obesity rate in the OECD. 1 in 3 adult Kiwis is classified obese, which Professor Wayne Cutfield says puts a huge strain on our health system and leads to heart disease, diabetes, cancers, neurological disorders and digestive disorders. The list goes on.
The predisposition to develop obesity begins early. It begins before we're born. A mother's diet and lifestyle will impact on her growing fetus's propensity to ultimately develop excessive amounts of fat, and that will run into childhood. So in other words, a mother who has an unhealthy diet and has a lot of weight gain, excessive weight gain in pregnancy, that child when it's born is at risk of developing obesity. So the risks for developing obesity begin before we're ever conceived.
And that has left us with a shocking child obesity stat.
If you look at 5-year-old children, our 5-year-olds are about the second most obese children on the planet in terms of countries. So why is this happening? And it's a combination of things. It's a combination of clearly genetics, and we have a greater predisposition amongst Pacifica and Māori. There's also lifestyle choices, and it begins early. So when I say lifestyle choices, it's about, and everybody knows that they should eat a healthy diet and it should be limited in calories, not excessive, and we should exercise regularly. But humans are hedonists and we love what isn't necessarily good for us. So we like to free range and eat lots of foods that contain fat, salt and sugar, which are not so good for us. And we have an aversion to exercise.
So more and more Kiwis are turning to the quick fix weight loss drugs to shrink the excess fat.
But there are no easy fixes. Ozempic is associated with quite appreciable weight loss, but you still need to eat a healthy diet with it. You can't just absolutely free range and hope that Ozempic will fix your obesity problem and at great cost.
Because these have been called the miracle drugs. We've seen all the celebrities who've lost so much weight on these. But you're saying that there is a catch.
There are several catches. First of all, how do they work? They call them GLP-1 agonists, and there are a growing number of these drugs that are going to become available. And it's likely there are others coming that may be associated with even more weight loss. But the catches are, they're not free from side effects. Side effects are common, and they are common enough that some people can't take them and tolerate them. About half of people will have gastrointestinal side effects. Most will cope with those. They principally work by suppressing appetite. That's their sort of key goal in terms of weight loss. They're expensive. In New Zealand, they'll cost $500 to $600 a month. And there's some limited data that shows that when you stop taking them, the weight comes back quite quickly because the drug suppressing appetite, when the drug stops being taken, the appetite is back and the eating behaviour is back, which raises the issue that is this actually treatment for life? Once you start on Ozempic, unless the person changes their lifestyle dramatically as well, then they can't stop taking it, because if they do, the weight's going to come back. So taking it for a year or two isn't necessarily going to fix you long term.
This time last year, it was reported that weight loss shots like Ozempic and Wegovy had been linked to 162 deaths in the United States alone.
In 2023, and it'll be way more now, there were 26 million Americans taking it. 26 million Americans. There are hundreds of thousands starting it per month. So serious drug reactions are pretty uncommon, but when you've got so many people treated, yes, they're going to occur. And this is the risk of any kind of drug treatment. Drugs can be amazing and they do amazing things, but they all come with risks, and it's a matter of balancing the risks and the benefits.
What are the genuine pros, though, Wayne, of using these types of medications for weight management?
They're associated with about 11 kilograms on average, Amanda, of weight loss. So that's the kind of average, and that's from clinical trials. And clinical trials are a coalition of the willing. They're not your average patient that is seen in a general practice. They volunteer to be part of the study, so they're more likely to be compliant with taking the medication and also eating more healthily once they're in the study. But clearly, if somebody is going to bother doing this, they should try and improve their diet and lifestyle as well. But I suspect for many, that isn't the case. What they're looking for is the quick fix. The
wonder drug, I'll just do this, keep going with the way I'm eating and living, and this will do the weight loss for me.
There's no miracle treatment. It always involves work. So those who have a severe obesity problem, this is a problem they have for life. It's not something that they'll be cured of, it'll go away. It's something that they have, and they have to manage forever.
And that takes work.
For people in that position, in our current environment, which is a world of food excess and a world in which is designed for us not to do a whole lot of activity, it's really challenging for them. This is tough for people who have a weight problem.
So for those who genuinely need it, does he think the weight loss drugs should be subsidised? Right now, as he mentioned, they cost about $500 to $600 a month.
That is a good question. And I think they could be, but they need to be part of a management process and not just put the person on the drug, it's free, so take it, but don't change your lifestyle. Having it subsidised or funded, it would potentially be quite cost saving, because if you think about the cost of obesity-related conditions, it's enormous. It costs billions and billions of dollars a year. Obesity-related healthcare costs cost billions a year. And at the moment, it's an unfair playing field. It's a case of those who can afford it get it, and those who can't won't get it. So I think it should be looked at as being subsidised or funded, but with it might need to come some conditions. Who has access to it and who stays on it.
The weight loss drugs are now big with the stars, many of whom are slim to start with.
One hot topic everyone in Hollywood still seems to be talking about is Ozempic. The medication that has previously only been prescribed to people with diabetes has taken Hollywood by storm.
It is quite concerning when we've seen so many celebrities shrinking, because they do have huge influence, and especially through social media, it is a problem.
Longtime fashion journalist Evelyn Ebery says as more stars shrink in size, plus-sized models have been pushed to the sidelines of fashion. She's just produced Cutting the Curve, a 6-part doco-series which highlights why curves, boobs and butts should be embraced by the industry.
At the heart of it is Isabella Moore, who is a Kiwi Samoan model and opera singer. She's the emotional heartbeat, really, of the story, and it's her narrative arc across it. And we get into what it's like to be a bigger model in an industry that was never designed for bigger people, and how hard that is, but also why it matters. You know, it's so important that we see so many different sizes in fashion.
But here's the thing about fashion. It loves you.
until it doesn't.
It's a complex topic because since we started making it, like Ozempic became a huge thing, Wegovy here as now becoming a thing, there's become so much more of a focus on weight and size again, with conservative politics coming back into play, that brings a renewed focus on controlling women's bodies. There's a lot going on right now that makes it a much more complex story than we thought it was going to be.
Because I remember, I think it was in the 90s when I was, going through all the fashion mags, it was all Kate Moss, it was that heroin chic, very skinny, that was the look. When did the plus-size curvy sort of models come in, and how huge was that for the industry?
Yeah, I was a teenager in the 90s and I remember it well. It was quite horrifying to never see anyone that looked like me or was my size in fashion. So about 2010 was when things started shifting. There was a curve agency established in Sydney that was one of the first, and that movement was really slow to take off, but we started seeing models like Felicity Hayward and Robin Lawley who were not a size 8 or a size 10. They were 14, 16, 18, 20, the models that were coming through. There was a real movement during the 2010s towards body positivity, which really built the careers of a lot of these models. We were finally seeing these kind of models on covers, which is amazing. It was really, really powerful. And I think if you've never seen someone that looks like you on the cover of a magazine or a media, it's a huge moment.
And how did the general public react to this? Did people embrace this? Did they like it? And they're going, actually, I see me finally?
Yes and no.
Talk me through that.
Yeah, we know what people are like. I think it's really, really hard when you've had decades worth of marketing designed to make you feel bad about yourself and to be fat phobic, to fear being fat. We've been told for a really long time through all this marketing that the worst thing you can be in life is fat. And I mean, that's so problematic. So yeah, there's definitely people that don't like it. There's still people to this day that don't like it. That will see a picture online of someone that's a bit bigger and leave a horrible fatphobic comment. That it has become an okay thing to comment on people's bodies is also really problematic. You're getting hate for just existing in a bigger body, which is messed up. And it says a lot about how social media has enabled people to just feel like they can share their opinion, even if their opinion is horrific.
You don't have to be told to shrink when you already know how. Too big, too loud, too much. That's what they were told. That's what they carry.
The diet industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. It's huge and it lines the pockets of so many people. And it survives and thrives on the assumption that being thinner is healthier, being thinner is better.
These women, they're gorgeous, they're having their moment in the spotlight. Then, as you mentioned, Ozempic, Wegovy, the wonder drugs came in. What has this meant for those models, for the industry, and sort of expectations now?
Yeah, these drugs coming in has just meant there's a real renewed focus on thinness, which, Skinny Talk had taken off on TikTok, which is a problem. And you have people openly talking about wanting to get thinner or needing to get thinner. And it's well, why though? We're not actually questioning ourselves as to this deep level of programming that we need to be thinner. It's it's actually okay just to exist as you are. I think with models, the industry has definitely returned to focusing on thin. We were at London Fashion Week in February, and that whole season of shows, there was 50% less curve models on the runway, and there weren't that many curve models to begin with. We have in the docu-series that it's 0.63% of models on the runway were a 14 or above. And that's nuts. There wasn't that many before, and that there's this teeny tiny number is crazy. So for curve models, it means less work. People like Isabella are finding that, things have gotten quieter. And so there is that pressure of, well, maybe I should take this thing if I want to keep my career.
If I want to keep getting paid, if I want to keep the jobs.
Yeah, exactly.
People argue that, bigger people, obese people, they are unhealthy. They are a cost on our health system. Are these models healthy? Where are they on that scale of things?
Yeah, I think people in bigger bodies have always existed in the sense that there's different races and different cultures that are naturally bigger boned. You can't actually judge someone's health from the outside. Very, very, very big people obviously there's an issue there, but in general it's actually quite hard to tell because you look at people like Ilona Maher, the rugby player, who's muscular and amazing, and like technically BMI-wise, she's obese, but look at her, she's incredible.
USA swing on to attack again here as Maher just puts the head down, powers her way through to the line.
Evelyn says plus-size people, both stars and everyday Kiwis, want to look good, but it's not always easy because not all fashion stores cater for them.
It's still an issue. There is not a lot of stores that you could go to and buy something off the rack if you're 16 or above, and that's across all the price points. There are the likes of Kmart or the Warehouse that have bigger sizes, but I mean, there's the likes of Glassons that's a chain store that doesn't go above a 14. And if we're talking designer fashion, like Ruby have done an amazing job of extending to a size 24, and they custom make bigger than that. And so those are like young, fashionable, fun clothes, you know, that women would love to wear. And you look at the likes of Lost and Led Astray, who've been doing extended sizing, I think, up to a 30 since the beginning. So, you know, they do beautiful clothes that are available, but that's, you know, like a designer price point. So there is still not a huge amount of options that are 16 or above, which is a problem. And I can appreciate that for designers that's complex. It does cost more to do an extended size range, but it is worth it. The money is on the table. There's people that want these clothes, but, you know, there's not a lot available.
Evelyn says she's a size 16 to 18 and she's happy, healthy and stylish, but she certainly has moments in her industry.
It has been a really interesting thing to exist in the fashion industry in a bigger body. And I only say bigger body because, like, I don't fit into, you know, the samples or the standard sizing. It does get to you sometimes. Yeah. There have been many runway shows I've been to or many collections I've viewed that, you know, the clothes are amazing. They don't go above a 14. So you kind of walk away going, great, another one that's not for me. So it takes a lot to keep showing up in this world that wants you to be smaller and to be comfortable with being yourself.
She says it's time Kiwis address their fat phobia and be kinder to themselves and others.
This fat phobia is deeply ingrained in a lot of us. People will look at themselves and go, oh, I feel fat or I look fat. We need to stop saying that to ourselves and we need to stop saying that out loud because people are taking that in all the time. It's like if you are with a group of friends and you're the bigger person and someone is looking at themselves, they're like, oh, I feel so fat today or I look so fat. And you're like, okay, so you're telling me that the worst thing you can be is fat. Great. That's not a nice feeling. But there is a lot of work to be done on just kindness, understanding, compassion, and accepting that we're all different. And that's okay. These things make you emotional because you're like, hang on, so many people have fought so hard for this progress, and yet it's starting to go backwards. This is not okay. If there is one message that we wanted people to get from the series, it's Isabella says it in the last moment, you know, note to self, love yourself. Our time on this planet is so short. Who wants to spend it worrying about what body size they are?
But for those who do have big body issues and can't afford expensive drugs, Professor Wayne Cutfield may be able to help. He's working on a gut probiotic and it could be available soon.
Is it a miracle? Let's see. But it shows lots of promise.
8 years ago, about 90 obese Kiwi teenagers took part in his groundbreaking study to see whether faecal transfer could make a difference to their health and weight. A faecal transfer is taking good gut bacteria from healthy donors and giving them in capsule form to people with less healthy microbiome. The teens in the study were given one treatment. Follow-up tests years later revealed good news.
And what we found was quite surprising. What we found is that the gut bacteria that we gave those obese teens, they were still there and thriving. They hadn't got killed off by bad diets or whatever. They were still there and thriving. And then we found that they had much less metabolic syndrome, those who were treated. Now, metabolic syndrome is higher blood pressure, higher blood sugars, bad blood lipids, too much tummy fat. And that combination doubles your risk of dying from a heart attack or a stroke. and gives you a 5 times increased risk of diabetes. We found that dramatically improved. Then we also found that they had 8 centimetres less waist circumference. Now that's a lot of tummy fat. And you know that tummy fat is bad fat, but they also were 11.2 kilograms lighter.
Oh, wow.
And this is after one treatment.
So how does it compare to, say, Ozempic and Wegovy?
It may not lead to the same degree of weight loss. Having said that, it is a single treatment. It's not a drug, so it doesn't come with all the drug side effects and risks. And you might only need to take it occasionally. So having said all of that, we believe that the treatment, that the gut microbiome treatment is most effective if you eat a healthy diet. You know, if you want to sabotage yourself, whatever the treatment is, whether it's Ozempic, whether it's a gut microbiome treatment or anything else, eating excessive amounts of bad food, high fat, high carbs, high sugar, that's going to make whatever treatment is tried much less likely to be effective.
How soon could you get that into the general public so more people would have access? And is that even a possibility?
It's very much a possibility. So where we're at now, Amanda, is that we've done some very sophisticated modelling. So we looked at all of the bacteria in the donors and all of the gut bacteria in the recipients. So it's thousands of bacteria. And we looked at all of the genes of all of the bacteria. That's a lot of complex information, terabytes of information. And we did some sophisticated modelling to see which of the bacteria in the donors was associated with the positive response. Because the kind of treatment that I'm telling you about, where you take a whole microbiome from a healthy donor and give it to somebody, that is not scalable. That is a very expensive way to create a treatment. It's like a handmade Ferrari. So what we've done is we've identified a clutch of bacteria, and what we are in the process of doing, literally right now, is growing those up, showing that we successfully grow them. Then we're going to test that combination of that handful of bacteria. And if that's effective, you can then grow those up and you're not reliant on human donors. And that could then become commercializable and, you know, an over-the-counter treatment. And it would be a probiotic, and it wouldn't be outrageously expensive. How far away? We will know whether that cocktail of bacteria is effective within about 9 months. And from that point on, we would look at commercialization. It's not a long way off, is the answer. Often when you hear about new forms of drugs being developed, it's, well, we'll know for sure in 10 years, or it'll be into market in 10 years. If indeed showing that combination of bacteria that we've modelled from our trial works, we're talking about several years, not many, many years.
That's it for today. The Detail is a newsroom production supported by RNZ and New Zealand On Air. Thank you to Professor Wayne Cutfield and Evelyn Ebrey. This episode was produced by Alexia Russell and engineered by William Saunders. I'm Amanda Gillies. Matua.